everybody. Welcome back to Theme Geek. All right, so this episode was originally supposed to come out about actually 4 days ago. Now, the reason it didn't come out was because there was a really mishap with the recordings. So, usually, when I take these videos and I record them, I always do it, you know, during homework time when I don't have any homework left and I have to wait for some other stuff to come in. If you're a college student, you know discussion posts. Those are idiotic. But anyway, so so Disney did so many theme park renovations when I was gone, and I never ever got to speak on it. They were renovating so many things like the hotels, their traveling system, their transportation system from MCO to the parks. They updated even the buses. They even did that. I think they updated Port Canaveral. They updated. They're going through everything, right? So they're looking at their catalog and they're like saying, guys, we are old as we really need to renovate here. My thing is, was that Disney parks don't really need the renovations in terms of getting rid of things and putting it there. Disney has enough room where they could honestly build a fifth theme park if they wanted to. They can absolutely do that. Now, do I think they're going to do that? I don't think so. And if they do, I think it might be Villains Land. I think they might do that because you could really extend from there and have the Halloween event there. A lot of things could happen. But anyway, like I was saying, my problem is that the renovations are needed. However, they're doing them, in my opinion, they're getting rid of what worked to put something about IP. And it's like, I appreciate the renovations, but these are the wrong type of renovations. We need, honestly, we need more maintenance on the parks. We need maintenance on even the food. It's gotten really out there and expensive. It's not the quality it used to be. I visited the Disney parks 2 years ago for their very merry, what is it, Christmas event, and I got this waffle, red velvet waffle, and it was doused in a bunch of stuff. Was it bad? No. Could it have been better? Yes. For $15, I would want it to be better. But anyway, like I was saying, so Disney is really going through the process of creating renovations and doing these renovations, but they don't realize what they're doing to their parks, and that brings me to my other slide here. So water is very essential in a theme park, especially for Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom's, well, Rivers of America, that was at Magic Kingdom. It really created a interesting way of, how do I say this, of distance, right? So you have the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is supposed to be a haunted mansion on a hill in the middle of nowhere. Like the Eddie Murphy movie, even though that was based on California's. My point still stands. The Haunted Mansion is supposed to be essentially in the middle of nowhere. What you do when you take that water away is you take that distance away. Now it's like, oh, well, this thing is next to everything. How? Because, water is supposed to immerse you. It's supposed to transport you. It's not really even supposed to do all of this BS that, oh yeah, if I put a little lake, it'll be fine. No, it won't be fine. Even as a classic attraction, the Rivers of America was, it was iconic. It's been there since the grand opening, the day opening. So all jokes aside, I think it's been there since the grand opening. I'm not sure. Don't don't get me for that. Excuse me, I was really thirsty there. Anyway, it just takes it away. It takes that distance away. It takes it like, oh, I'm going in the middle of nowhere to visit this haunted house. Even Big Thunder Mountain, that distance, you're in a canyon. I think it really benefited from having the Rivers of America. Now, I'll be honest, Tiana's Bayou Adventure could have been better. I felt like it was lazily put there for the sake of it. There could have been much better things to renovate it with. So Splash Mountain was a phenomenal ride, but they could have done something else. They could have done it better. But anyway, that's with renovation I was okay with. That's fine. Could have been better, but it was okay. And then, all jokes aside, you get rid of the rivers of America, you get rid of Tom Sawyer Island, and you put the Cars Land. Why couldn't you put the Cars Land as an extension? So people were always talking about beyond Thunder Mountain. I think you really could have put Radiator Springs in Magic Kingdom. You just had to put it over here. Magic Kingdom has enough land where you could do that. It's not like Disneyland where they would have to get rid of something to replace it. You know, Magic Kingdom has enough room for you to say, okay, we're gonna put this here and we're gonna build it from scratch. We don't need to demolish anything. When you demolish things, then you kind of subtract value to your park. It's like what I said with Dinosaur. You didn't have to get rid of Dinosaur. You could have put the Tropical America somewhere else. You could have done that. But instead, you plopped it in, which is a really good space. You put it there. You didn't even move Dino Land because you could have moved it. Dino Land is still animals. They're still creatures. They're going to regret this because now Animal Kingdom is a half-day park. And I'm not saying Magic Kingdom is going to be a half-day park. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is that it doesn't make any sense. Why would you get rid of something that was popular pre-existing? Nostalgia, which Disney obviously builds on. And just put Cars Land. It just doesn't make sense. And then apparently this is a snowy peak. And the Haunted Mansion is back here somewhere. I don't believe it. I don't think they need to do that. You could have put it next to Big Thunder, call it Radiator Springs. I think people would have accepted that more, adding on to it, than. But it's easier to do it replacing something because you don't have to level the land. If you live in Florida, like I did, excuse me, about the water table, about how hard it is to really go dig in Florida, because at some point you're gonna hit a water table because some places in Florida are below sea level, and Orlando being a swamp with a lot of sinkholes, it is a lot easier to do that, but it's a lot lazier. And with the billions and millions Disney makes, they don't need to take that route. They just don't need to. They really don't need to. There we go. So I know I was yapping. This is kind of a shorter episode. I just really want to get my thoughts out there because this is a little ridiculous, right? I mean, you don't have to go through any of this to get this type of product. Disney has enough room and land to do as they want with it, to do as they please with it. Yet they're not utilizing the land that Walt Disney got them. He foretold this. He was Professor X in this thing, and he just said, "Wait a minute, guys, we're going to need a lot of land." So he got all the land, and then now it's like, "Oh, we don't want to use the land." Well, you got to use the land. You're going to have to. It's just kind of idiotic that they won't. They won't build that 15 park. They won't do anything. Disney has, all jokes aside, they can even do another water park. They can do so many things, but they don't want to because they're comfortable the way they are. And I don't know who's leading the creative charge of Disney. I don't think it's Josh. I think it's someone else. But whoever is, I think you're not really invested in the experience of the people. Because if you were, you would actually add instead of removing things. You would renovate existing rides a little bit better. Like cleaning the boats, updating the animatronics, updating the queues, updating the experience. DAS, I believe that, yeah, I think that's what it's called. The Disney Accessibility System is completely unusable. Lightning Lane, completely out of reach and expensive. You're doing all these changes to the parks that really don't need to be there. Like Monsters Inc., for example, in my opinion, it should have been in Animal Kingdom. As weird as it sounds, it should have been there because they needed it. Hollywood Studios is supposed to be Hollywood Studios, and now it's just an IP built. It's just an IP park. Like from when I was little, I'm 22 by the way. When I was little, I went to 2000s Disney. I went on the Great Movie Ride. I went on these awesome rides that really sold the theme of the park, right? So you had, honestly, as weird as this sounds, the Aerosmith coaster was fantastic, and Hollywood Tower Chair was fantastic because one had to do with music, one had to do with the show. That's how you do it. You don't build a whole land that has nothing to do with nothing. Toy Story Land did not need to be there. Did not need to be there. Okay? Monsters Inc. did not need to be there. The only one I could see that it was acceptable was Star Wars, because the Star Wars ride was already there. That one was okay. And I feel like they could have done a lot more with TV shows and not Disney IP. Like they could have leaned more into, you know, Disney. I don't know how to say this. It doesn't fit the theme. Like pick themes of Disney movies that would fit the aesthetic of Hollywood Studios. Because Star Wars fits the aesthetic of Hollywood Studios. And Monsters Inc. doesn't. Right? Okay, so the Muppets fit with Hollywood Studios. I guess what I'm trying to say is put more live action movies in Hollywood Studios that Disney has made. However, we really think about this, Disney hasn't made any really big live action movies, unless you consider their other properties. But I think Hollywood Studios can be really a moneymaker if they lean into that. If they lean into all the properties, live action properties they got, they could absolutely do that. They could make a new Great Movie Ride with their IP. Disney has enough IP to do that. But instead, you're slapping the Monsters logo onto something that does not need to be there. It should have been an Animal Kingdom. It should have been. But that's just my opinion. I think live action works better in Hollywood Studios, and everybody else could get the Disney IP. Like I'm a very big fan of the Ratatouille renovation in France of Epcot. I think that was one of the best things they've done. One of the best decisions. Because it obviously Ratatouille takes place in France. France needed a ride. Bam. That was the best idea. Um, but Hollywood Studios kind of lost its identity. Now it's just the park where it's like random IP slapped into it, I guess. It didn't. I think they're ruining it. I think Hollywood Studios is in a worse scenario than, per se, Animal Kingdom and all the other parks combined because it doesn't have an identity. You're doing these renovations with no clear identity in sight for any of these parks. Really, the only one you're taking seriously is Animal Kingdom, if you think about it, and Epcot. Those are the ones who were treated the best out of this. Magic Kingdom is your flagship park. Why don't you work on improving the flagship attractions? Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise, Pirates of the Caribbean. Work on improving that and renovating these things rather than getting rid of the rivers of America. The Tom Sawyer, I think it was Tom Sawyer Island, and just put Radiator Springs right next to. You don't even need to put the whole Radiator Springs. Just put it in next to Beyond Thunder Mountain. You don't need to do it. It's just silly. It's just silly. It's just you have all this room, and I will say this. Universal doesn't have a lot of room, but they utilize it the best way they can. Okay, Velocicoaster was honestly built on nothing. Okay, they had nothing to build it on. They pretty much built that thing on the lake, if you really think about it. And then Hagrid was a worthy successor to Dueling Dragons. Okay, and I went on Dueling Dragons. That was fantastic. But my point still stands. You know, I'm sorry I had a huff for that one because sigh, really. Because it's just idiotic. You're going to replace something, make it to the theme. It honestly, I wouldn't be upset if they did a canyon theme for that. Like I said, Radiator Springs replacing Rivers of America. But you got to put some type of water there. You can't just completely leave it like a snowy theme. There's no snow near there. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think. I know what I think. I know how I feel about this. I think it's so stupid. But anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a great day. I'm